lot of us spend our lives chasing happiness. We grind for it, buy it, hustle for it. We think it's in the car we drive, the woman we marry, the money we make, or the position we hold. And sure, happiness feels good, but happiness is usually tied to circumstances. It shows up when you get a promotion, when your team wins the championship, when the business deal closes. But joy, now joy is different. Joy isn't waiting on a paycheck. Joy doesn't disappear when the lights get cut off or when the doctor gives you news you weren't expecting. Joy is that quiet contentment that settles in your soul and says, I'm okay, even if nothing around me looks okay. Welcome to the Shattered Mindset Podcast, wisdom from life's turning points and defining moments. I'm your host, Melvin Larry, and listen, let's talk. And I don't mean talk like I'm standing behind some podium with a PowerPoint. No, I'm talking about like pulling up a few chairs together, maybe in somebody's living room, maybe after a meal, maybe in the quiet of a coffee shop somewhere. Just us sitting down, reflecting on what life has taught us. Because you know, and I know, life teaches. Sometimes the lessons come gentle. Sometimes they come hard. And sometimes they only make sense years down the road. And lately, I've been thinking, what would it look like if I just laid out some of the things I've learned so far? Things I wish my 25-year-old self had known. Things I hope my sons, grandsons, and honestly, even brothers like you could grab hold of before life forces it on you the hard way. So let's walk through some of these lessons together. Here's the first, and one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Joy and happiness are not the same thing. A lot of us spend our lives chasing happiness. We grind for it, buy it, hustle for it. We think it's in the car we drive, the woman we marry, the money we make, or the position we hold. And sure, happiness feels good, but happiness is usually tied to circumstances. It shows up when you get a promotion, when your team wins the championship, when the business deal closes. But joy, now joy is different. Joy isn't waiting on a paycheck. Joy doesn't disappear when the lights get cut off or when the doctor gives you news you weren't expecting. Joy is that quiet contentment that settles in your soul and says, I'm okay, even if nothing around me looks okay. Now, happiness can be loud and temporary. Joy is steady and lasting. Happiness depends on what's happening. Joy depends on who you're becoming inside. And when you've got joy, life can't shake you as easily. You can smile in the storm because joy isn't about what's around you. It's about what's inside you. You know, I had a friend who passed away recently from cancer. And I remember talking to him, and he was telling me in his last days that he had, gotten peace with himself and with his life and with the things around him, even people around him. And he said, I know now and understand the meaning of the scripture that talks about having peace that surpasses understanding. Now that's joy, I'm telling you. Okay. But I don't know his situation. I haven't lived his situation, but I do know firsthand that when I walked away from FedEx after 26 years, I lost a steady paycheck, a structured environment, the kind of happiness that comes from security. But what carried me through wasn't happiness, it was joy. Joy in knowing I was stepping into purpose. Joy in knowing my story wasn't over just because that chapter closed. That's the difference. Hey, here's another lesson. My health is in my hands. Let's be real. High blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, these things run rampant in our communities. And yes, there are doctors and medications, but so much of this comes down to choices. I've had to look in the mirror and admit nobody's going to make me eat better but me. Nobody's going to get me moving, drinking water, going to the gym but me. And here's the truth. The things that are best for my body and my longevity are usually the hardest to start. But once you push through that, once you push through the pain of starting, it gets easier. But look, you skip a workout today, it's a little easier to skip tomorrow. You put it off for a week or weeks, and look, getting back up feels like climbing a mountain. That's why I have to tell myself, don't give tomorrow the chance to steal what I can do today. Let me say that again. Don't give tomorrow the chance, the chance even to steal what I can do today. And listen, I've lived this. I love swimming. I love the gym. But let me tell you, there have been times I stopped. And when I had to restart, even after a short break, it felt like starting from zero all over again. When I was in my 20s and 30s and so forth, I could stop for weeks, even months, and go back to where I started from. But now, I got to start all over again. The older you get, the harder it is to restart. And that's when I realized it's not just about exercising, it's about consistency. The moment you stop, it costs twice as much or more to get back in rhythm. Okay, let's shift and talk about something else. How about excellence versus perfection? While you're trying to do everything right, you're finding yourself more in a place of doing little or taking too long to do it and procrastinating. And a confused mind does nothing. And while you're trying so hard to get everything perfect, you forget to realize that it'll never be just right. All right. So I've seen this too many times. The moment you just start, though, something happens and clarity steps in. You get better as you go. Excellence comes from repetition, from the courage to begin, from the humility to keep learning. But perfection, it just doesn't exist, not in this life. Okay. I had to live this when starting this podcast. Trust me, I didn't have everything figured out. Still don't. First episode, they weren't perfect. Still aren't. Okay. The editing wasn't what it is now. Well, I do have help with that now. But here we are, 60 plus episodes later. And you know what? It got better because I started, not because I waited. And the same goes for my book project. Okay, hey, listen, I did start a book project. I decided to stop waiting until it was flawless, though, because I know that it'll never get off my desk if I do that. So it's a work in progress, all right? And excellence comes through progress. Now, here's one I wish more men understood. Tell your children and your grandchildren your stories, because if you don't, somebody else will. Your stories, the mistakes, the victories, the lessons learned, those are a part of their inheritance. Don't let them grow up only knowing you as the person who worked, ate, and slept. Some people just eat and sleep, okay? But let them know what you thought, what you dreamed, what you overcame. Those stories are like guideposts. They keep them from repeating some of the same mistakes. And guess what? They'll still make mistakes. I told my sons and daughters, I said, listen, I told you every mistake I ever made and you avoided everyone, you'd still have enough mistakes to make on your own. Okay. But listen, I shared a story on the podcast recently, and it stays with me. It's about my father's boat. We were out on the water fishing, and that boat started taking on water because the drain plug came out somehow. It's tethered to a little chain. Thank goodness it was tethered to that chain. But that, and perhaps it got stuck on some brush or some undercurrent or underwater trees or something. But it obviously came out. But that simple situation, it nearly sank us. But here's the lesson: it's the little things in life that can sink a big ship or a little boat. And leaks can happen, but we don't need to just leave them unplugged. We need to find them and plug them. I tell that to my kids and grandkids because it's not just about a boat. It's about paying attention, about responsibility, about how small details matter. I've also learned that you've got to parent with love, with wisdom, and with strength, not just strength alone. Okay. That doesn't mean enabling your kids. That doesn't mean being soft when they need this discipline. It means giving them the boundaries and the love at the same time. Listen, fathers, your daughters need to see love from you first, so they won't waste years chasing it from the wrong man. And your sons, they need to see how you treat their mother, because that's their model for how to treat other females. You may not think they're watching, but dude, they're watching. Okay. Here's a key point. If you spend your children's youth just disciplining and punishing them, and I don't mean beating up on them, even though you're doing it because you love them and want them to do well, but don't show love and affection too, they'll not only just remember you as a disciplinarian, they'll also grow up believing that all mistakes are answered with punishment only, and they'll expect that that's how they're supposed to live. I can tell you, raising my kids taught me lessons. And now, stepping into grandparenting, it feels different. As a parent, you're shaping character. As a grandparent, you're shaping memories. Both require love, wisdom, and strength, but in different ways. That contrast has taught me just how much presence and guidance matter. Oh, by the way, chivalry isn't dead either. Look, even after decades, I still open doors and pull out chairs. My kids and grandkids notice it too. They see it, and that one little act of chivalry, it teaches them more than a lecture ever could. I watched my grandson, who he's recently got married. I don't know how he got old enough to get married because I'm so young. But he was his wife before they got married. I saw him opening a door, at an event and so forth, and letting her out and letting her in and things of that sort. And I'd seen him do it before. And he talked about that. I complimented him on it. He said, "I got it from you, Granddad." And while we're out and about, I'll tell the boys all the time, open the door, for your nana, open the door here and so forth. And so I want them to learn that. Okay. It may not seem like a big deal to you, but it is a big deal. Okay. Okay. I'll get deeper into that in another episode. But another lesson, learn about money early. Don't wait until you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. You might already be there, but don't wait until then to get serious. Plan now for later. Invest early. Think about your future today, not just your Friday night. Your future doesn't wait for you. You got to begin with the end in mind. If you want freedom later, you've got to sow wisely now. I learned this in a big way when I became an entrepreneur back in 2002. Stepping into entrepreneurship meant no guaranteed paycheck. If I didn't plan it, if I didn't invest, if I didn't discipline myself financially, my family would feel it. Hey, they did. Okay. That lesson made me realize, though, it's not about how much money you make, it's how much you manage. But don't just learn this for now. Be a lifelong learner. Don't cheat your brain. Don't starve it. Learn a second language. Read more. Stretch yourself. Listen more. Listen, because growth doesn't stop when school ends. And hear me, people are not always going to clap for your dreams. They won't always understand your goals. All right. Because having and pursuing goals is a part of keeping your brain and you alive. But that doesn't mean you quit. Keep feeding your mind, keep building your skill set, because a growing man is a valuable man. And look, I'm still working on this myself. I've been learning Spanish for a while now. Now, I'll be honest, trying to learn a new language in your later years is humbling. I mess up words, I mix up phrases and conjugations and all of that kind of stuff, and start over and start over. But I keep going, okay? Because every new word is proof that my brain is still growing. And that's what being a lifelong learner looks like. By the way, There's more to this than just the what of learning. Reading is the how. Did you know your brain processes reading and listening differently? Listening carries the big ideas, but both keep you sharp as you age. I won't go too deep on that today, but stay tuned because I think that deserves a full episode on how to keep your mind alive and learning at every stage of life. Oh, and here's one I love. Describe who you want your future self to be. Write it down. How do you want to be remembered? Redeem the time while you still got energy, while you're still in your most productive years. Don't waste them. Be a contributor, a producer, not just a consumer. Give the people you care about not just quality time, but quantities of quality time. Be present in their world and protect your reputation and teach them to protect theirs. Think about that when on social media, because once it's damaged, you can't get it back. Also, being kind doesn't mean being passive. Doing right doesn't mean being weak. Treat people right because it's right, not because you're trying to impress them. And listen, you don't need everybody's approval. How we deal with people makes me think about my time at FedEx, where I managed employees. Later, stepping into volunteer leadership, it was different. No paychecks or pink slips to keep people accountable, just vision, influence, and example. That taught me something about the kind of legacy I want to leave. I want people to remember my life, not for titles or money, but for love, wisdom, and strength. That's kind of my mantra. All right. Those are some of the things that life has taught me. And look, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. But if I could sit down with my 25-year-old self, or if I could whisper to my grandsons, uh, you know, 20 years from now, these are some of the truths I'd pass on. Life is too short to not be a person who is in a learning stage all the time. All right. It may seem easy, but you don't have to learn the hard way. And maybe today, this conversation sparked something in you. Maybe it reminded you of what you already knew, or maybe it challenged you to pick something back up. Hey, before we wrap this up, let me give you something practical. 5 things I want you to do this week, not next year, not someday, this week. First, take 10 minutes and write down one lesson that's been shaping your life. Don't just think it, write it. Because when you put it on paper, it becomes real. Second, share a story. Before the week is out, tell one of your children, your grandchildren, or even a close friend or colleague something they may not know about you. Be vulnerable a little bit. Your stories are part of their inheritance. Don't hold them back. Third, take one small step toward your health. Skip the fried food. Drink that extra water. Walk an extra 15 minutes. Small steps add up, but you've got to start. Fourth, practice excellence, not perfection. That thing you've been sitting on because it's not ready, just take the next step. Progress beats perfection every time. And fifth, invest in your future self. Describe who you want to be remembered as. Write it down in one sentence. Then ask yourself, what can I do today to move closer to that version of me? That's your assignment. Don't just listen, apply it, because wisdom unused is just information. Wisdom applied, well, that's transformation. Whatever it is, take it with you, apply it, share it, and keep pressing forward. Now, until the next time, keep adapting, keep evolving, and keep reaching for those new horizons. Take care, take charge. We'll see you the next time on the Shattered Mindset Podcast. God bless.